Ladies and gentlemen, I sat at my computer yesterday and I thought, what can I make a video on? And I couldn't really think of a topic. It's interesting how much can change in just one day, because now we have a bunch of topics that I can bring up. We just saw Trump actually announce that he's going to be signing an executive order on Thursday to allow cryptocurrency into people's 401ks. That's absolutely massive, does a lot to legitimize the cryptocurrency industry. It's led to a local catalyst on Bitcoin and on Ethereum, and we therefore need to discuss Bitcoin and Ethereum. We have a bunch of new indicators on the Bitcoin chart on a daily time frame, which I think are incredibly useful. Bitcoin is also back testing a very important line here in yellow, which stems right backwards from 2017. So we're at a massive crossroads here for Bitcoin, actually. And the results of this retest could be detrimental or absolutely astoundingly positive. Ethereum is on the verge of breaking upwards even further. And that could have massive implications for the altcoin market as well. We'll discuss that today. But Ethereum at this point still retains dominance. And I'm also going to discuss the Global Liquidity Index. There's some very interesting things going on with the Global Liquidity Index, which is basically a chart that essentially measures all of the money in the world, okay, if we want to be very simplistic about it. And that chart, in relation to Bitcoin's macro tops, has a lot to say. We need to discuss that. So a few different topics to get into today. I'll try and keep them brief, but also retain as much quality as I can. Before we get into it, I really appreciate if you check out the Bitunix Exchange. A lot of people ask me what exchange I use as a trader. I use the Bitunix Exchange, and I don't have a contract with them. I haven't signed anything with them. I don't work for them. I advertise them on my own accord. With my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount permanently attached to your account, as well as up to 8,000 USDT in rewards just by signing up with my link down below. Why would you sign up? Well, it's global, it's non-KYC, it's never been hacked before, it's got all the functions and pairs that you would expect for a major exchange. For that reason, I use it. And I implore you to consider using it as well. Sign up with my link to help out the channel, help out yourself. Cheers. There's so much to discuss here, it's hard to know where to begin. First of all, we'll just move through it systematically. From short term here, which is what people really care about, what's happening immediately. Well, there was a major resistance zone on Bitcoin at around 15,000, 115,000 that is, to around 116,000 roughly, that has been breached to the upside thanks to this Trump news in part, at least on a local level. You can see that neckline of resistance very clearly formed there. We've breached that neckline to the upside, and we've come right now, it's not all fun and games though, we've come right into another resistance zone, which actually comes back a lot further and is more important. It's on this chart right here, goes right backwards from 2017, cuts through the 2021 all-time highs, previously acted as resistance in late last year and early this year, where I've just circled. It also acted as support for a long period of time, just last month actually, and that's the level we're testing for resistance right now. So need a little bit more on Bitcoin on the short term. We're not quite out of the woods yet. I'll just bring your attention to this pink channel formation as well. This pink channel formation is still intact. It hasn't actually broken to the upside. So we've seen very short-term price action bounces from the white line, which goes right backwards from 70,000, as I showed you before. It's good to see we've swung up from that support zone, heading up to resistance, but we haven't actually broke the overarching structure, which is this descending channel formation. So still more or less the same stuff on the short-term price chart, just with very bullish steps in the right direction. We should see a resolution on this short-term price chart very soon, though. I don't expect Bitcoin to range for much longer. And the reason I say that is because this channel formation presses right against this white line coming from 70,000. And that apex is just in under a week. So we really are on a limited time clock here, if that phrasing even makes sense. The point is we don't have much time left, and therefore we should be seeing a move very shortly. I think it will be to the upside personally. I'd be quite surprised if we move downwards. I'd be quite surprised if Bitcoin dropped below 110,000. $110,000 being this red line, a major support zone, which previously was major resistance. If we drop below 110, my eyebrows would well and truly be raised. I'd be very concerned. But I don't think that will happen. I think Bitcoin looks good here. However, my thoughts only matter so much. What matters is what actually is confirmed. Right now, nothing's really confirmed. Right now, we are still in the same range. We're just looking good. We need to break this channel first. That's the first step. But excellent news with the Trump stuff in relation to the executive order that is coming, and that has led to a very good move in the short term. And very promising signs for what could be to come here in the next couple of days. I do think it literally will be the next couple of days. I don't think we will remain in this channel for very long at all. I think this is it. We will break soon. One of the reasons I am bullish here is because, well, first and foremost, to break downwards below 110,000 at this point in the cycle would be very, very strange. We only have about 2.5 months left in the 4-year cycle. That's not a long time. We don't really have time for massive delays. Generally speaking, the 4-year cycle ends on a parabolic note. And if that is going to be the case, we should be moving upwards here. But secondly, it's just the sheer quantity of support that we do have. We have support coming from this white line, as I showed you. We have support coming from very important indicators such as the 50 EMA on the daily chart and the Gaussian channel on the daily chart. I want to specifically draw your attention to the Gaussian channel. It's been a really big dividing line between the bullish zones and the bearish zones on Bitcoin for over 8 months now. You can see when we hold this, we're in a bullish territory. When we break this below the center line, we're in bearish territory. That's been the case for, as I said, the last 8 months. Very clean, very simple, very straightforward. And we're testing that center line right now, or at least we were a few days ago. We held onto it and we bounced. That's a very, very good sign. So lots of support, layered support really at around 110,000. Bitcoin is bouncing from that support zone and it's making steps in the right direction. We just need that final leap above this channel and then we can start really attacking the macro resistance that matters at 124,000. But overall, I do think if we break this channel to the upside properly, I don't think 124,000 should be an issue because a break of this channel to the upside on Bitcoin, in my view, would actually line up with a broader breakout on Ethereum. And what we do know about the market is this. Ethereum, for once, is actually leading the market right now, not Bitcoin. Ethereum is upwards about 180% from its April lows, while Bitcoin is only upwards from its April lows around 60%. That shows you that Ethereum's tripling Bitcoin's performance. And Ethereum is right on top of a major macro breakout point on the RSI as we speak. Okay, look at that breakout point in the RSI. Look at the fact that it's matching on the price chart as well. As we speak, Ethereum is testing at those zones. Ethereum only needs another 5% move, and it's going to be shooting to the upside with massive amounts of volume, or at least that's what the charts say. And in order to get that 5% move, all Bitcoin needs to do is really just break this channel. It doesn't need to break 124,000. It just needs to break this channel, and Ethereum will start running. And seeing as the fact that Ethereum is leading the market, it seems highly likely that if Ethereum gets the breakout, Bitcoin probably will follow. So I'm actually not necessarily too pressed about 124 right now. What I'm more focused on is this channel formation, and I think 124 will probably follow in short order from that. That could be quite an aggressive assumption to make, considering 124,000 is layered resistance, but I think the logic is pretty sound there. If Ethereum's in a parabolic breakout with massive volume, I think Bitcoin will probably follow, especially considering Ethereum's been tripling Bitcoin's performance. So really my eyes right now are closely watching this region, the top of the channel formation, and more broadly actually the monthly chart on Ethereum and the resistance that shows there on the monthly chart on Ethereum on the RSI and on the price chart. As we've just established very clearly, it is still an Ethereum-dominated market environment. That's the case very clearly from the Ethereum BTC chart, a chart that represents, basically measures the strength of Ethereum against Bitcoin. That chart has almost doubled in a matter of 3 months. So Ethereum's doing extremely well. And the broader altcoin market is actually lagging a bit. The broader altcoin market, as per the Bitcoin dominance chart, has only moved about 10% in favor of the altcoin market. So we're seeing Ethereum just outperforming everything dramatically, and altcoins actually are lagging. That goes against what a lot of people think happens in this part of the cycle. People think that altcoins run with Ethereum. It's not necessarily true, actually. You see an Ethereum season first, and then you see altcoins start to run. There's so many nuances about that this cycle specifically, because altcoins have done absolutely horrendously, so we're even wondering, will we even see an altcoin season? But if we are going to see an altcoin season, it will follow an Ethereum season, and we are currently in an Ethereum season. So there's a whole video I can make on that and get into specific lines, like this line here on the 2-week chart RSI for the Bitcoin dominance chart, looking to break down. That could validate an altcoin season. That line has not broke down since 2023. That would be big. That's kind of a topic for another video. It's too in-depth to throw in here. The point I'm trying to make is this. The levels that matter right now are the Bitcoin channel on the short-term chart, 124,000 obviously, but also, and people seem to ignore this quite often, which is strange considering how well Ethereum's doing. It's also the monthly chart on Ethereum and the RSI on the Ethereum chart. Bitcoin and Ethereum hence have made strides in the right direction with this Trump executive order. I'm hoping they can continue doing so. We'll know very, very shortly. I think they probably will. The thing I wanted to end this video off with actually is discussing the global liquidity, okay? M2, global M2, all the money in the world basically on a chart. And that is this blue line right here. Obviously, that's an oversimplification of what this chart is, but it's an oversimplification because I don't have time to dive into all the nuances. We just need to get out what actually matters. The fact of the matter is the global liquidity index, the global M2, does have a pretty striking correlation with Bitcoin and all assets for that matter. Of course it does, right? When new money is flooding economies, you're going to see that money flood markets. Okay, so of course the chart's going to look similar. But there's something specifically, two things specifically interesting about how the global M2 is reacting in relation to Bitcoin. One of them is, what you'll see, is that there seems to be a pattern where Bitcoin tops out its bull markets about 200 days before the global M2 does. That happened over here. It was 200 days in the first cycle, about 120 days in the next cycle. And in 2021, it was about 150 days. So 200 days, 120 days, 150 days, something like, let's say, 4 months to 7 months, somewhere between 4 and 7 months after the Bitcoin top, the global M2 tops. Now, that's not actually very useful to us as people who are watching Bitcoin because, of course, Bitcoin will top first under that logic, and we're trying to predict the Bitcoin top. We're not really getting much use out of that. We're not trying to predict the global M2 top. If we were, it would be useful because then we could say at the Bitcoin top, oh, okay, the global M2 is going to top out 3 to 7 months from now. But it's the other way around, right? We want to predict Bitcoin, not the global M2. So that information means nothing to us. The only reason I'm bringing that up is to establish the fact there is a correlation here. There is a connection. And so what we can do now, since we've established that connection between these two charts, is zoom in and see the connection is not just about tops, it's also about structure. We saw an aggressive spike in the global M2 after COVID as economies all over the world just basically printed a shitload of money. And that, of course, increases the money supply dramatically all over the world. And what we saw is that the M2 actually spiked before assets did. M2 started spiking even before the end of the drop. We saw the M2 spiking upwards. It led to a parabolic surge on Bitcoin and on the S&P 500. We're seeing a similar trajectory of an M2 spike right now, which started in December. We haven't really seen the M2 move upwards at this trajectory since basically 2020. It's the fastest move upwards in the M2 since 2020, 5 years ago. And that 5 years ago when we saw it led to a dramatic spike in markets. So the underlying assumption here is that markets should be spiking basically right now or very soon. Now we can combine this with the fact that the M2 seems to be foreshadowing Bitcoin's movements right now, and has been since 2020, or 2023 more likely. Basically, you can see right here, the M2 bottoming out before Bitcoin by about a month, and then that trend has continued by about a month here. We saw the M2 entering this consolidation phase before Bitcoin, again, about a month before Bitcoin. Bitcoin ended up moving upwards first, probably due to the ETF news, but then again, the M2 entered a consolidation phase about a month before Bitcoin, lasting the same length as Bitcoin's consolidation phase. It broke above that consolidation phase and started spiking again about a month before Bitcoin did. It entered a correction about a month before Bitcoin did. There's a trend here developing, and right now, we see the M2 spiking to the upside, and Bitcoin only just starting to follow in April, but the M2 is still moving. And if we're working with the assumption that Bitcoin is basically following the M2 with a 1 to 2 month delay, this Bitcoin move should not be finishing yet, right? Because the M2 is still rising. In fact, this Bitcoin move should go on for at least another month or two, which brings us in line with the 4-year cycle's top prediction. So this is great news, and this is something I'm going to look into extensively in tomorrow's video. But I just wanted to bring this up today just to get you familiar with it. And also not to drag out this video too long and, overload you with information. I'm going to leave it this in-depth analysis for tomorrow. But that's another bullish sign on the charts here. So overall, to recap, we've got excellent news coming from a potential executive order bringing cryptocurrency into 401ks. That's very good from a realistic price chart perspective, but also from perceived value perspective. We've got Bitcoin making strides in the right direction on short term. We've got Ethereum pressing up against major resistance. If it breaks that, that will be huge. But we actually don't have any actual breakouts yet. Just good news, good steps in the right direction, no actual hard concrete breakouts. I think they'll be coming very, very shortly. And obviously, in case I'm wrong, we've got that $110,000 level. If we break that, guess what? We can de-risk, no issues. I've always said this market cycle has been unique, and this market cycle specifically for the reason that altcoins have done very poorly, is about reacting rather than predicting. I've stepped away from predicting quite a bit. I'm reacting. And that's why I've got the important levels that matter, 124,000, 110,000, the monthly chart levels for Ethereum. These are levels you react to. You don't try and over predict. Predicting doesn't make you money. Clicking the buy and sell button does. So it's about knowing when to do that. So big stuff coming tomorrow with that global liquidity analysis. Guys, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Hope you got value out of this video. I understand some of these videos can be a little bit choppy. I freestyle all my videos. I don't plan them out too much. So for that reason, they can get a little bit off the rails at times. But if you appreciate the content, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and also check out the Bitunix Exchange. A lot of people ask me what exchange I use as a trader. I use the Bitunix Exchange, and I don't have a contract with them. I haven't signed anything with them. I don't work for them. I advertise them on my own accord. With my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount permanently attached to your account, as well as up to 8,000 USDT in rewards just by signing up with my link down below. Why would you sign up? Well, it's global. It's non-KYC. It's never been hacked before. It's got all the functions and pairs that you would expect for a major exchange. For that reason, I use it. And I implore you to consider using it as well. Sign up with my link to help out the channel, help out yourself. Cheers.